We have some time, about 15 minutes for clarifications, and then we will press ahead with the rest of the cuts until 7:30 p.m. So can I invite members if you have any clarifications now? Mr. Lewis Ng.
Thank you, sir. I have two clarifications, both relating to having roadmaps, which I think has been very useful that we have published the roadmaps for carbon tax, so companies and people can plan and adjust in advance. So first, for Minister Grace, I thank her for sharing details about the disposable carry bag charge, and I also thank her for not saying no to extending the disposable carry bag charge to smaller convenience stores. I believe she said not now. So could I ask whether we can have a roadmap in terms of expanding the disposable carry bag charge? So again, companies can and our people can plan and adjust in advance. Second, I thank SMS Amy for sharing the details of the extension of the smoking prohibited areas. But the same thing, could I ask whether we can have a roadmap in terms of expanding the no smoking zone in Singapore? And I really do thank SMS Amy for all her hard work in addressing all my questions with regards to second-hand smoke. I sincerely wish and hope that will become her second most favorite topic after hawker culture. Thank you.
Minister Grace Fu.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member Louis Ng, for his supplementary question. I would like to assure members that we do look at his suggestions very carefully, and I think that for the issue on disposable bag, this is indeed an important step that we have taken. Having thought through all the considerations and also positions that we have taken in the past about how relevant plastic bags are in our daily lives, I think we need to make this change. It's important for us to start cultivating that habit, and let's see what happens after that, because we may encourage more businesses to come on board, which we have already been doing that. And I would like to see a lot more businesses, individuals taking this as part of their habit. When you have that as part of your habit, then I think we don't need to use the lever of legislation. So I'm keeping it open for now. We'll see what's the response by the people and by the business community, and we will review it over time. Thank you.
SMS Dr. Amy Khor.
I thank the member for his question on second-hand smoke. Sorry. I thank the member for his question on, yet again, on second-hand smoke. But let me also thank the member for acknowledging that we have provided him with comprehensive answers for the various questions he has posed on second-hand smoke. As regards roadmap, as I've said before, we continue to monitor and review if we can further extend our smoking prohibition from time to time. In fact, we continuously do this. And in the area of second-hand smoke, in homes as well as in public areas, this is something that we will continue to do. So the roadmap really is about driving, continuing to work on it, and continuing to look at how we can actually feasibly implement any extension of smoking prohibition to other areas. Because whatever we do, it will have to be operationally feasible as well as effectively enforced in order to make a difference.
Ms. Hanny So.
Thank you, Chairman. My clarifications is in relation to the ES regime. While I applaud the ministry's determinations to implement the ES regime next to more premises to keep our community safe, but I'm also concerned that this will also equate to increasing operating costs. In my earlier PQ that I asked this morning, I have raised my concerns that places like preschools are already grappling with COVID-19 rules and shortage of manpower. So I wish to inquire whether MSE intends to provide more supports or monetary grants, which this business operators can tap on to implement and continue to comply with the ES regime.
SMS Khor.
Thank the member for the question. Indeed, for the ES regime, what we have actually done is really to work with the specific sectors. So preschool, for instance, we work with them to come up with the standards, the baseline standards for the regime. And in that sense, what we are also doing really is to go upstream to implement the baseline standards so that they know. For instance, I've shared that the preschools actually welcome the fact that now they have actually got clear guidelines as to the cleaning and disinfection frequencies as well as protocols when before they don't have. Then they'll be able to implement it, you know. So what we really have done, as I've said, is to calibrate the requirements, work with the sector and calibrate the requirements. And if you think about it, if you do it right upstream, actually it will help you to reduce or avoid costs downstream because it will avoid, say, gastroenteritis cases or minimize, reduce the cases. And if you don't, when there is, such incidents, there could be additional costs because you will have to do deep cleaning and so on. There will be reputational damage and then closure of the schools. So really it's also cost avoidance. And at the front upstream actually is really about putting in place a proper system and proper measures rather than needing, say, for instance, additional manpower. Regarding the ECC that they have to appoint, it can actually be an existing staff. It could be one of the supervisors or teachers, for instance, or you could actually employ one to oversee a few within the neighborhood or within the area. So we do provide for some flexibility. We are mindful of the cost.
Dr. Lim Wee Kiat.
Chairman, I have two clarifications regarding disposable plastic bag charges. I'd like to ask the Minister when we implement this plastic bag charges, because plastic bag charges, the cost price of a check is actually very low. It's a fraction of a cent. So when we charge 5 cents per bag, means that the profit margin is quite high. I know you are saying that it is not purely for profit, but does it mean that any other shops, including convenience store, if they decide I want to charge for plastic bags, it is legitimate to do so straight away? Is it considered as profiteering? This is something, especially in the rise in this issue, in this climate of rising inflation, many of the residents are all very concerned about costs. You also mentioned that the cost itself, that is the profit that is, or rather the revenue that's collected from this will be channeled towards other social causes. Is this mandatory or is this voluntary? So which means that how will we ensure that this cost is really channeled towards helping the environment and those of a lower socioeconomic group? And previously I also asked before about how do we help our lower socioeconomic cope with this increase in the cost now, even though it is just 5 cents per bag. Thank you.
Minister Grace Fu.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the member for these clarifications. On the first point about possibility of profiteering, actually right now, even without this latest legislation proposal, some shops are already collecting bag charge for environmental reasons, for good reasons. You can look at it as a motive for profit, but actually it is really putting it on a cost. And I would like to actually remind members and also all members of the public that this is a cost that can be entirely avoided. You don't have to pay the bag charge if you carry a reusable bag or you put it into your carrier bag. And I think that's really the kind of habit that we'd like all Singaporeans to cultivate over time, that when you are going out, please have a sort of collapsible, reusable bag in your bag or carry it along with you in your car so that you can avoid having to pay the bag, and do not let any companies make any profit out of this. Second point about whether we would make it mandatory to apply their proceeds to environmental and social causes, the answer is yes, but we are not requiring them to put it into specific charities or specific causes. So the supermarket operators will have the choice of how they want to apply, maybe as part of their CSR and ESG program. The idea really is that I firmly believe that this action for climate and action for environment is not restricted by income segmentation. Whether it's a low-income, high-income family households, I think everyone has the capacity to contribute to reducing waste and to be environmentally friendly. So I like to encourage all households, regardless of your income level, to think about how to reduce wastage. And for the supermarket operators, if we are minded about it, can always work with your charities around you or the social service agencies around your community to give back and help the low-income family in other forms, whether it is food vouchers or whether it is low-cost food. This is really our way to extend assistance to everyone at this time, a very difficult time. So the short answer is that yes, they're required to, and I would like to really see them doing their bit for the environment and also for the social causes in the area where they operate. Thank you.
Mr. Edward Chia.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank MOS Desmond on his sharing that to facilitate greater safety innovation in the plant-based protein space, they are facilitating dialogues with SFA on the requirements. Conversely, I would like to ask, is SFA also actively updating requirements along with technology innovations in this space? Thank you.
MOS Tan.
Yeah, I thank the member for the question. The short answer to the member is yes, SFA will continue to try to keep abreast with the latest technology and also review our regulations to keep pace with what is coming up. But I've also mentioned in my speech that because this novel food do not have a history of safe consumption, therefore we are paying a bit more attention on its safe implementation before it reaches our consumptions market. And I would just also want to highlight to step up on the safety part, companies can also collaborate with Future Ready Food Safety Hub. In short, we call it FRESH, which is a partnership between SFA, A-STAR, and NTU to conduct their food safety assessments. And thereafter, these food safety assessments are then rigorously reviewed by SFA's Novel Food Safety Expert Working Group. So we have put in place some of this structure. One is to ensure that we monitor the progress and advancements in technology for novel food, but at the same time to ensure that these are safely assessed and before they are implemented to the Singapore consumer market. Thank you.
Last clarification, Ms. Polisan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This clarification is for MOS Desmond Tan. Thank him for giving us an update on the progress of the DTSS. But I'd like to know a bit more about what are PUB's plans to mitigate localized flooding in regions that are outside the capture vicinity of the DTSS. For example, last year, remember that Bukit Timah area as well as Loyang areas experienced quite severe flash floods. I'd like to MOS Desmond to share a bit with us. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this will be part of ongoing effort by PUB to reduce inland flooding. As I mentioned in my speech, we have been spending huge investments in improving our infrastructure. We do that, systematically in 3 ways. We look at the source, we look at the passage, and we look at the receptor. So we look at how we can, for example, slow down the flow of flood waters. We built detention tanks. We have built one at, for example, Stamford Canal. We have also required building owners, for example, to have detention tank within their properties, really all ways to slow down the movements of water. We've also improved drainage. We're going to invest significantly over the next few years in order to improve our drainage system, including Bukit Timah. And we will look at how we can improve, our flood responses on the ground. But the challenge is this, I'd like to inform members, is that climate change has actually, is telling us, all the science and data are telling us that we're going to expect more intense rainfall. We're going to also expect rainfall that didn't used to collect in places that we are used to. So we're starting to see some areas that didn't used to be flood-prone has now becoming more flood-prone, partly because we have already worked on some areas and therefore the water will find its way towards the lowest point now, and we have to continue to improve our infrastructure. But more importantly is that we cannot prevent the possibility of a single flood event in Singapore, and that will have to really get community to be aware, to have the ability to manage and the ability to be resilient towards such an event.